Hello and welcome to this week's edition of In the Bunch with Jacques. As you know, the world's fastest cycling show, and this week we're going to cover quite a few different topics. Mountain biker Frankie du Toit has launched a campaign to raise some funds. We chat to Jacques after the Tour de France. No need to go at that pace. In fact, enjoy it with us. We'll bring you all of the action from right in the bunch. It'll be right inside there. Keep it in, don't let it out. Anyway, the program this week contains Frankie du Toit's campaign to raise funding for herself to travel abroad with CSA's financial woes. We chat to Jacques after the Tour de France. Discover as well that there is now legalized doping in South African cycling. Believe that one if you will. And of course we introduce a brand new big major road classic. A lot to look forward to this week, but the first story, the Venters, Jacques Venter, Ivan Venter, Pa Johan Venter, the country star brandy maker, and of course Ma Venter, always at the bike races. We chatted to son Jacques just after the Tour de France.
It was always a big maybe for me and a big hope for me as well to get in. And yeah, it was a lot of hard work we did. I already started racing in January with the first race in Australia, and then from there on, being World Tour, most of our races are at the highest level. So you already get a peak in how it's going to be in July. So it's always at a high level, and yeah, you just carry on building until you get closer to the thing. Even a week before, you don't even know yet if you're starting the tour. So it's always risky and stressful for sure. But yeah, luckily my preparation went well.
Jacques, we know that the professionals spend their lives on two wheels. What kind of preparation exactly goes into prepping for a Tour de France?
Yeah, so November, December and January, that's mostly when we do our big hours. So then we'll do mostly 5, 6, 7 hours a day, depends on where you are in the week. And then also now we have to start with efforts as well, because we already start racing in January. So that's when the worst training or the hardest training is at the start of the year. And then from there, when we start racing, it's mostly just race and recover. In between, you do some work that maybe if you need some shorter efforts, you do a bit of shorter efforts. If you feel in the races, you need longer efforts, and obviously you'll do those. So it all depends on how you feel on the race, and then you have gaps in between the races to fine-tune those.
Jacques, after 4 Grand Tours, of course 3 Vueltas and 1 Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France still has to just have that something special.
Yeah, the level is similar. I think it's still a bike race with the same guys. Everyone is just a bit more nervous, and the pressure is just a bit higher. Obviously with the media and all the sponsors around, it's quite stressful, especially not only during the race but also afterwards and leading up to there's so much people around. It's crazy. Always around when you start in the race village and around the bus. It's a lot of stress. But during the race, it's quite similar to, you can compare it to the Vuelta and the Giro d'Italia as well.
Jacques, we see 3 or 4 hours a day of the Tour de France. Sketch us a typical day in the life of one of the pros on the world's biggest bike race.
Yeah, at the tour especially, you don't really have time for anything. So normally we get a schedule the day before from one of our directors, and he does all the planning. So you have exactly your times where you need to do what. So it normally starts about 8 o'clock. We wake up, go for breakfast. I normally wake up as late as possible, pack my bag and go down with my luggage to breakfast, have breakfast, straight onto the bus. Then it's normally depending on how far we are from the start, but yeah, it can be 5 minutes to sometimes an hour or even longer in the bus. And then when we get to the start, it's normally like an hour and a half before the start. So we quickly do a meeting of the plans for the day and the goals for the day. And after that, we get ready, dressed, put on all our sunblock and whatever we need, all get our race food, and yeah, then we're off. 5 or 6 hours later, depending on the stage, we're back in the bus. Yeah, we get some food on the bus, get showered in the bus as quickly as possible, and then we're off to the hotel. And then from there, we get our massages, dinner cooked by the chef that we also have, which is really nice. And then yeah, that's our day. So we don't really have much time. We maybe have half an hour or 1 hour in between to, check.
Jacques, we always chat amongst our mates, 21 days of intensive racing like that. One of those days has to be a little bit of a not such a good one. Did you have any of those on the tour?
For me, I think the mountain stages in the Alps, I think it was stage 16, 17 around there. I really had a hard day. Had some stomach problems, was not feeling too great in the morning. I could feel, luckily with our team doctor, I got some stuff on my stomach. But yeah, for me, I had a really hard day. We started on a massive climb, which was almost an hour of climbing. And then we had another 2 climbs still to go, and it was, I think, 180k stage. Luckily, I was always with a big group, but yeah, I had a really hard day, and yeah, luckily could make it inside the time limit. And the next day, I was feeling much better again. So it was actually just that one day.
You must be wondering, like me, what the whole thing's about. Is it about winning, supporting the riders, and at which point does that fear of abandonment strike the riders? Jacques probably the best guy to tell us that.
You always worry about it, but you don't think about it. You know that you have to do whatever it takes, even if you need to go fast on the downhills, take some risks, but it's all in on the mountain stages. So you always know there's a possibility if something goes wrong, or if you have a bad day, that you might go home that day, but you try and just block it out.
But I mentioned data for Quebec's squad's whole strategy was built this year in the Tour de France around Mark Cavendish winning maybe 4 stages for the team, but disaster struck when he crashed with Peter Sagan, cracking the collarbone, abandoning the Tour. Let's find out from Jacques how that influenced the team's strategy, with most of the race still to come.
Yes, definitely. It was a big loss for us going into the Tour already. We knew we had about 10, 11 sprint stages, so that was our biggest goal to get a win in the sprint stages, or at least to win in the sprint stages. So after stage 4, when we lost Mark in that bad crash in the sprint, we were like, what do we do now? And we had to refocus ourselves. And luckily we knew we had a big sprint train, and we had still some strong riders left to do the sprints. And then obviously with Edvald he was really strong this Tour, and with the lead out guys, we always had good support for him. So we knew we just had to carry on trying and fighting, and eventually it paid off almost at the end, but we got the win, so we were very happy.
Whew, what a fantastic experience it must be for Jacques Venter, and good luck to all of the Venters. They love the sport and we love them as well. But from one Grand Tour, the world's biggest bike race, the Tour de France with Jacques Venter, cross now to the women's equivalent of the Giro d'Italia, the Giro Rosa, which saw our newly capped national women's road race champ, Heidi Galtand, suffer the 10 toughest days of her career as a cyclist. This is what Heidi had to say about that.
Toughest 10 days of my life, not just on the bike, but off the bike. I'm riding for an Italian team, so most of the girls, they don't really speak English, which makes it a bit difficult for me. Although they really are accommodating in that, but it also does play a big part outside of the whole cycling situation. So yeah, it was just a really, really tough 10 days. I knew going into it was going to be tough, but I didn't expect the level of women's cycling to be that tough. So yeah, it was just a really tough 10 days, and the women's riding is just incredibly great at the moment. So it was nice to see. It was an awesome experience, and now at least I know what to expect going into next year.
Yeah, the sport's not for the faint-hearted. You can hear tough 10 days there that Heidi Galtand suffered in the Giro Rosa. Sticking with the fairer sex, now we go mountain biking to Van Galen's Cheese Estate up on the perimeter of the Hartbeespoort Dam area. Now, Candice Neethling, you remember, was a bronze medalist at Junior World Mountain Bike Championship level several years ago. Few things have moved on for her. She's now Mrs. Darrenville, who you remember as the winner of the Giro del Capo and, of course, national road race champion. Mountain bike racing getting a lot closer. Maybe it's the influence of husbands who are ex-roadies, but Candice took a 1-second victory only recently at Van Galen's over Samantha Sanders in a sprint finish. This is what she had to say about that.
Fortunately, I knew I knew what the finish looked like, and I knew that if you went into the last corner first, it was difficult for the other person to overtake you. So I made sure I did that, and I pulled it off.
And won. That was the margin between Candice, little these days, and Samantha Sanders. In the men's race, exactly the same result at the same event at Van Galen's, with Matthijs Beukes this time beating Brendan Davids by just 1 second in a nail-biting sprint finish there.
Just try to play it safe and try and stay off the brakes as much as possible around the corners. And just really wanted to finish the camera.
When one thinks mountain bike downhill in South Africa, Greg Minnaar, the Neertlings, and of course Johan Potgieter are probably the three names that everybody knows. Potgieter has won the national title, now the downhill, for the fourth time in his career after an unbelievable 6-year gap, largely caused, of course, by a wrist injury to this popular PE cyclist. This is what Potty had to say.
Almost 3 seasons of my career, I've been sort of at 50-60%, not being able to give my best because of these injuries. And then since the start of 2016, I started becoming my old self again. And obviously now a bit older, a bit more experience, etc., etc. And now it's been 6 years already since my last South African champs win.
Well, sticking with the mountain bike national champs at Mankele recently, big win as well for the young Julian Jessup, a man successfully defending his under-23 crown after a little bit of trouble with the throat, which kept him off the bike for a couple of days. But a great story for him there, winning it back-to-back. And of course, his teammate, Philemon Sabona, has just signed with Tiger Steel, as has Jessup. Great story as well on In the Bunch. If you want to go onto our site there and have a look how Sabona rose from selling peanuts to being a professional cyclist. Absolute goosies. It's wonderful to hear about this stuff. But we chatted to Julian Jessup about his victory, and he's headed for the top.
It's very exciting for me. It's been a childhood dream since I started racing mountain bikes, and my first national champs was when I was 11, turning 12, so it's been quite a long dream which I've pursued. I'm very excited to be in the professional environment. I think it's going to help my cycling a lot and bump me up to that next level. It's very nice to have teammates like Philip Bass and Marais Buurkus, who are very experienced. Philip's been to the Olympics and Commonwealth Games, and both Marais and Philip have won multiple stages and the African Absolute Cape Epic Jersey. So it's going to be, I think I'm going to learn a lot from those two as they kind of mentor me as I'm still under 23.
Well, we told you at the start of the show that doping was now legalized in South Africa, but not the kind of doping that we immediately spring to conclusions about. This is doping the bicycle, mechanical doping. Big media news just this week has been the Italian veteran cyclist was caught in a race there with an electric motor on his bike and obviously busted. Well, South Africa now has legalized this. The Trans-Cape event, a major multi-day mountain bike stage race in the Cape, as the name would imply, has agreed to allow electric bikes into its race. However, they'll be riding in their own category. Clearly not eligible for the open prizes. Can one just imagine a motor paced Marais Buurkus coming out there for 4 or 5 days, and he would just be a day ahead of the field by the end of it. They've also been asked to track and to behave themselves, and obviously to ride within the confines of the race on these electric bikes. Very interesting how it's going to unfold. Maybe time for me to get one, but Feb will tell us how it all works. Trending at the moment is the hot news of a brand new major road classic, the Tshwane Capital Classic, which runs this year on the 5th of November and starts and finishes at the Voortrekker Monument. It traverses all of the major attractions in the Tshwane area. One could think of the fountains, of course, the Union Buildings and Loftus, where home teams at some stage used to win home games. But it does go past all of these major attractions, and I hope the boobles forgive us for that one. But can you imagine full road closure in a brand new event on a big day like that? Going to be a challenge, but the man confident of overcoming every challenge is Maurits Meyer, the founder of this big classic.
We decided to make it a race, a different race. We must include the historical places in Pretoria, like the Union Buildings, Paul Creer statue. We will start and finish at the Voortrekker Monument, Freedom Park, Wonderboom Airport. Everything will be included in the race.
So it's going to be a fantastic race on the 5th of November, that Tshwane Classic. Now looking across it in the bunch, trending this week, top secret, I believe Meintjes is joining Dimension Data for Quebec. That's what the story tells us, which is probably the ideal career move for this youngster. I'll be top of the pops and a general classification rider on that squad. Heidi Dalton, understandably, very, very popular as well and in the bunch. But the cherry on the cake this week, Jacques Venter, that wonderful story of South Africa, one of our top road pros making his debut on the greatest bike race in the world. If you've liked the show as much as what we've done putting it together for you, please subscribe to the show and ping the bell Until next time, it's on behalf of Kutsia host Johnny Koen saying, ciao for now, because I'm off to get my electric bike.